Jack had taken many jobs in his life, but this one sounded almost laughable. Escort 2 alien girls from one star system to another. No combat expected, payment up front. He sat across the table from the client, a tall alien merchant with long silver horns and sharp green eyes. The merchant slid a small datapad across the table, showing the route and payment amount. It was more than Jack usually earned in 3 months. Too much for a simple escort mission, Jack thought. You will meet my daughters at Dock 7, the merchant said, his voice calm but carrying a weight that made Jack uneasy. They are twins. You will keep them safe until they arrive at the destination. No questions, no delays. Jack leaned back. Studying the alien's face, seems like you could hire a dozen guards for this price, Jack said slowly. The merchant's green eyes narrowed. I am not hiring a dozen guards. I am hiring you. There was something in his tone, something that told Jack this wasn't just about money. The next morning, Jack arrived at Dock 7. The spaceport was crowded, full of traders shouting over each other, ships lifting off with roaring engines and security drones floating overhead. 2 young alien women stood by a sleek black shuttle, their matching pale blue skin shimmering under the morning light. They wore identical dark coats and had long white hair tied neatly behind them. Even from a distance, Jack could tell they were watching him. When he approached, both gave him the same faint smile. It wasn't a friendly smile. It felt like they were sizing him up. You must be our escort, one twin said, her voice soft but clear. The other added, We've been waiting for you, human. Jack gave a short nod. Name's Jack. They didn't give their names. Instead, they each lifted a small silver case and stepped onto the shuttle without another word. Jack followed, already wondering what exactly he had agreed to. As the shuttle lifted off, Jack noticed something strange. The twins didn't carry any luggage besides the silver cases. No clothes, no personal items, nothing that would suggest they were going on a long journey. When he asked about it, one of them looked at him with a knowing smile. We have everything we need, she said. Then they exchanged a quick glance, as if sharing a private joke during the first hour of travel. The twins spoke quietly to each other in a language Jack didn't understand. Sometimes they would glance at him mid-conversation, their expressions unreadable. It made him uneasy. Finally, Jack decided to break the silence. So, what's in those cases? He asked, nodding toward the silver boxes. They both looked at him at the same time, eyes bright but cold. That's not part of your job to know. One twin replied. The other added softly, Not yet. Jack didn't like mysteries. Mysteries? Got people killed, but before he could push for answers, one twin leaned forward and said something that froze him in place. We didn't choose you by accident, human. Jack frowned. What's that supposed to mean? They didn't answer. Instead, they turned back to their quiet conversation. As if nothing had been said, hours passed, and Jack kept glancing at the cases, whatever was inside. It was important, maybe dangerous. He noticed they never let the cases out of their sight, not even when one of them went to the small rest cabin. The other kept both cases in her lap. It was strange, too strange for what was supposed to be a simple escort job. As they drifted past a cluster of asteroid fields, Jack's console beeped. An incoming message flashed on the screen, encrypted unknown source, before he could open it. One twin quietly reached over and pressed a button, deleting the message. Without hesitation, Jack grabbed her wrist. What the hell was that? Her calm eyes met his. Trust us, human. It's better if you don't know yet. Then, without pulling her hand back, she slowly smiled again. It wasn't the smile of someone grateful for protection. It was the smile of someone who knew exactly where this was going, and that Jack didn't, for the first time in years. Jack felt something he didn't like. He felt he was no longer in control. Jack didn't sleep that first night on the shuttle. The twins had taken the small sleeping chamber while he stayed in the cockpit. Watching the quiet stars drift by, every few minutes he would hear them whispering through the thin metal walls. Their voices too low to catch the words. He didn't like it. Silence he could handle, but whispers meant plans, and plans meant trouble. When the ship's sensors beeped in warning, Jack reacted instantly, hands flying across the controls. 2 small craft appeared on the scanner. No ID codes. Approaching fast, he hit the alarm. The twins appeared in the cockpit in seconds, both holding their silver cases tightly. "They're not supposed to be here," one twin said without surprise. The other's eyes shone like she was almost pleased. The raiders came in hard, their ships firing warning shots. Shaking the shuttle, Jack muttered a curse and took the shuttle into a sharp roll, diving into the shadow of a nearby asteroid. But the raiders followed, their hooks latching onto the hull. Metal screamed as the hatch was forced open. Jack drew his blaster, but before he could fire, the twins moved. One crouched low, pressing a hidden switch on her case. The other slipped past him with a speed no normal civilian should have. When the raiders stepped inside, they weren't met with a scared escort group. They were met with a fight. Jack blasted the first raider in the chest, sending him flying back into the corridor. The twins fought in perfect rhythm, one knocking weapons aside while the other struck pressure points with brutal precision. Within minutes, the raiders were on the floor, groaning or unconscious. Jack stared at the twins, his breathing heavy. "Who the hell are you two?" he demanded. They glanced at each other again, the same secret smile passing between them. "Still just your passengers," one said, voice smooth and calm. After the bodies were secured and the hatch sealed, Jack expected them to explain, but they didn't. Instead, they sat down, opened their cases just a crack, and checked whatever was inside. He caught a faint glow, a soft pulse of light, and the hairs on his arms rose. He wanted to ask again, but something told him he wouldn't. Like the answer, later, as they drifted back into quiet space, the twins began speaking in their own language again. At one point, Jack clearly heard one word in galactic common trial when he asked what it meant. They only looked at him with unreadable expressions. "Don't worry, human," one said. Finally, you passed the first one. That made him freeze. "First one? How many were there? And what was the prize or the cost of passing them?" Jack had been given the coordinates for their destination before they left. But 2 days into the trip, the twins changed them without warning. He noticed when the navigation screen flashed red, rerouting toward a sector marked with a bold warning. Symbol: restricted zone, no entry. He killed the autopilot. "That's not the deal," he said sharply. "We go where I was paid to take you." One twin leaned against the control panel, her eyes calm, almost amused. "Your payment is safe, human," she said, "but we need to go here instead." The other added quietly, "You'll understand soon." Jack shook his head. "You think I'm flying into a restricted zone for fun?" The twin closest to him smiled faintly. "Not for fun. For survival." Something in her voice made him hesitate. It wasn't a threat, not exactly. But it wasn't a request either. And then she tapped the silver case in her lap. "If we don't reach the right place in time, a lot more than your life will be at risk." He didn't like it, but curiosity dug at him like a hook. What could 2 young alien women possibly be carrying that needed to be smuggled into a forbidden sector? And why choose him for the job? Every answer he imagined only made more questions. Hours later, the shuttle slid past the border beacon into black space. Here, the stars looked different. Dimmer, colder, as if the light itself was afraid to enter. Jack caught movement on the long-range scanner. 2 blips, moving parallel to their course. "They've been following us since yesterday," one twin said casually, as if commenting on the weather. Jack's head snapped toward her. And you didn't think to mention it? She only shrugged. Mentioning wouldn't have changed it. By the time the scanner picked up the planet, Jack felt his jaw tighten. It hung in the void like a wound, a dark mass with rivers of glowing red running across its surface. The kind of place pilots whispered about in bars, claiming ghosts lived there. The shuttle descended through a sky that looked like a storm made of ash. The twins didn't look scared. They looked almost relieved. Jack had the sudden, uneasy thought that they weren't arriving somewhere dangerous. They were coming home. The planet's surface felt wrong the moment Jack stepped off the shuttle. The ground was black rock, sharp as broken glass, and the air tasted like metal. The twins walked ahead without hesitation, their silver cases still in hand. Jack kept scanning the area, his hand near his blaster. He had been on hostile worlds before, but this one felt like it was watching him. They were halfway across a jagged ridge when the first sound came, a low, vibrating growl that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Jack froze. The twins did not. Figures emerged from the haze, tall and thin. With skin like polished stone and eyes burning yellow, they carried long, hooked weapons, their movements slow but deliberate. Jack stepped forward, blaster raised. Before he could speak, one twin said softly, "They're not here for us." The lead figure pointed a clawed hand straight at Jack and hissed something in a language he didn't understand. But he understood the meaning. It was a command to surrender. Jack didn't move. The twins shifted position, standing at his sides like guards protecting a leader that made no sense, and it sent a cold shiver down his spine. The stone-skinned hunters moved in fast. Jack fired, the blast lighting the haze for a moment. The twins struck with sudden precision, using weapons hidden in their coats. They fought like they had trained for years, each movement calculated. Within minutes, the hunters were retreating, their yellow eyes glowing in the dark as they vanished. Into the haze, breathing hard, Jack turned on the twins. "You want to explain what that was?" One of them smiled faintly. "The second trial," she said. The other added, "And you're still alive." Jack felt his pulse in his ears. Trials, secret enemies. A forbidden world, none of it was in the job description. But for the first time, he realized something he hadn't before. This wasn't an escort mission. This was a test. And he was the one being measured. Jack didn't trust them anymore. He had already decided that once they reached a safe port, he would take his pay and disappear. But when he went to check the shuttle that night, stomach sank. The power core had been removed. The ship wasn't going anywhere. He stormed back to the campfire where the twins sat side by side, their silver cases in their laps. "Where is it?" he demanded. One twin didn't even look up. "We can't let you leave yet," she said calmly. "You think you can trap me here?" Jack snapped. The other twin's eyes glimmered in the firelight. Not trap, protect, before he could answer. A faint rustle came from the darkness beyond the ridge. Jack's instincts kicked in, and his blaster was in his hand. The attack came, fast, silent shapes darting through the shadows, metal blades flashing. One twin shouted as a figure lunged at her. Jack fired without thinking, dropping the attacker before it could strike, but in the chaos, one of the silver cases slipped from the twin's grasp, hitting the ground with a sharp crack. The lid popped open for just a second. Inside was a smooth, glowing sphere, pulsing like a heartbeat. The light spilled across Jack's face, warm and cold at the same time. It felt alive. He stepped forward. But the twins snapped the case shut instantly. Her voice was sharp now, almost desperate. "Don't touch it." When the attackers retreated, Jack stood over them, chest heaving. "What's inside that thing?" he asked. The twins exchanged a glance before one finally spoke. "If this falls into the wrong hands, entire worlds will burn." Jack stared at them, feeling the weight of their words. Whatever this job was, it was no longer about credits. And whether he liked it or not, he was already too deep to walk away. The sky over the Black Ridge was turning red when the twins told Jack the truth. The sphere inside the case wasn't a weapon in the usual sense. It was a key to something ancient, hidden deep within this planet's mountains, and if it wasn't placed in the heart chamber before the next moonrise, an enemy fleet would take control of it instead. Jack rubbed a hand over his face, staring at them. And why am I involved in this at all? One twin stepped closer, her voice low, because the chamber won't open for us. The other finished. It will open only for one who has been bound to our bloodline. He frowned. Bound. What does that even mean? They exchanged a look, the kind that told him they had already decided. It means a life bond. Human, the first twin said. Once made, it cannot be broken. Jack took a step back. You want me to marry into your family, just to open a door? The second twin's tone was colder now, not just a door. The future of our people. Before he could argue, movement in the distance caught his eye. Dozens of shapes, fast and silent, closing in from the valley. The twins drew their weapons. Their voices urgent now. We don't have time for debate. You bond with us now, or none of us make it to the chamber. Jack's pulse pounded in his ears. This was insane. But so was dying here and letting whatever was inside that chamber fall into enemy hands. He took the small ceremonial blade they offered, feeling its strange warmth in his grip. The bond was made in seconds, their blood mixing with his in a way that sent a sharp, burning shock through his chest. One twin met his eyes, her voice steady despite the danger. Now you are one of us. The mountain path was nothing but sharp rock and cold wind. Jack's legs burned as they climbed, the twins moving ahead with the silver case between them. Behind, the enemy closed in fast, their shouts echoing through the dark canyons. The sky above was bruised purple, the first edge of the moon rising. Time was running out. They reached a massive stone door carved into the mountain itself. It had no handle, no keyhole, like an U-preve shaped like an open hand. One twin nodded to Jack. It will answer to you now. Jack pressed his palm into the groove. The stone shuddered, a rumble rolling deep into the earth. Light cracked across the door like lightning. Then it split open. Inside was the heart chamber, a circular hall glowing with a golden light that seemed to come from everywhere. At the center stood a pedestal, waiting. The twins stepped forward and placed the sphere onto it. The moment it touched, a wave of energy burst outward. The mountain shook, the air trembled, and outside, the screams of their pursuers were cut short. When the light faded, the twins turned to Jack, their expressions calm now. It is done, one said, the other added, and by our law. You are now prince of our house. Jack stared at them, unable to speak. This job had started as a simple escort mission. Now he was tied to a royal bloodline, with a fleet somewhere in the stars waiting for his command. The twins smiled together, stepping closer. We told you from the start, human, one whispered. We had something else in mind.